story is called The Long Way to the New Land. The letter from America. Carl Eric's father shook his fist at the clear blue sky. "Rain!" he cried. "We must have rain!" But rain did not come. The whole summer passed without a drop of rain. The grass dried up. The cow did not give milk. The crops did not grow. There would be no food for the long winter. Carl Eric and his brother Jonas gathered moss in the forest. They scraped bark from the pine trees. Mama mixed it with flour to bake their bread, hard and bitter bread that made their stomachs ache. Papa tried to buy food. "It's hopeless," he told Mama. "There is nothing to buy. People have left their farms. I saw children begging." One day a letter came from Uncle Axel in America. "Dear ones, the worst is now over. It is a new life for us here. We have built a house. Our land is good, for we'll have food for winter. We think of you there in Sweden. We know how hard it must be. Your farm is small and rocky. You have 3 sons. What future do they have? Come, we'll help you come to America." Carl Eric saw something on the back of Uncle Axel's letter. "Dear Carl Eric, we have a cow and 12 chickens. We eat wheat bread with butter every day. I've seen an Indian. He was not fierce. I can speak English better than Mama and Papa. Your cousin Anne Stina. I want wheat bread with butter," said Jonas. "Can we go to America?" That night, Carl Eric could not go to sleep. He was too hungry. He was thinking of Anne Stina's letter. He could hear Mama and Papa talking in their bed. They were still talking when Carl Eric finally fell asleep. The next morning, Papa said, "There is no future for us here. We will go to America." Goodbye to Sweden. There were many things to do before they could leave. Mama took all the flour and baked hard flat bread. She washed the quilts and sewed new clothes. Papa made a big trunk with a lock. He sold their small farm and most of their things. He did not get much money, but it was enough to buy their tickets to America. They filled the American trunk with homespun clothes, tools, Papa's rifle, and a Bible. "Can I take Pontus?" said Jonas. "Yes," said Papa. 1 toy each. Carl Eric rolled up bedding. He and Jonas packed the cups, bowls, and spoons. Mama put cheese, dried meat, and bread into a basket. She packed a copper coffee pot. They said goodbye to the people they had known all their lives. Farmer hugged her grandsons. "My poor darling," she said. Her cheeks were wet with tears. Jonas hopped off Farmer. He was too excited to hold still. Carl and Eric took turns running on the cart. They saw many other people. Immigrants, said Papa, "just like us." They met at an inn each night. They talked about America. They shared their plans, hopes for better life in the new land. It took 3 days for them to reach the city of Gothenburg. "Look at the high houses," shouted Jonas. "Look at the sails on the boats," said Carl Eric. Papa sold the cart and the horses and bought their tickets. The boat would leave the next day. They waited with the other immigrants until the bag mail, lumber, and cattle were loaded. Then they went aboard. "Goodbye, Sweden," said Mama. "Goodbye forever," cried Papa. 4 days to Liverpool. It was smelly and dark under the deck. People were packed together on the beaches. They were lying on the floor. "Where will we sleep?" said Mama. Papa found a place for them by the engine room. "It's noisy here," but he said, "but it's only for 3 nights." Every morning, Mama waited on line to boil water for their coffee. Then she carefully divided up the cheese and bread. 3 days later, they docked in Hull. "Is this America?" said Jones. "No," said Papa. "This is England. They speak English here." But the first person they met spoke Swedish. He was an immigrant agent from steamship company. He helped them with their baggage and got them safely to the railway station. The train to Liverpool hissed and tooted and clickety-clacked its way across the English countryside. It passed fields, meadows, and rows of brick houses. It went in and out of tunnels and by factories puffing dirty smoke. That night they slept in beds in the immigrant hotel. The Liverpool port was crowded. The Swedish families huddled together. Carl Eric held on tightly to Papa's hand. All around him he heard strange languages of other immigrants. English, German, Norwegian, Italian, French. The immigrants boarded the ship. The doctor examined them. He looked for smallpox vaccinations. An old woman and a girl with a rash were sent back to land. Papa found their bunks in a section for families. Clean straw, said Mama. She stuffed their mattresses and laid out the beds. When the ship was loaded and ready, the first-class passengers got on. The doctor smiled at them. The stewards helped them to the cabins on deck. Suddenly there was a roar of steam and clang of bells. The city of Baltimore was on her way to America. Storm and fever. That evening a steward placed a kettle of fish soup on the long table. The immigrants dipped into the pot with their cups and bowls. They pushed and bumped each other. A man next to Carl Eric dipped into the pot with dirty hands. Crash. Carl Eric woke up with a start. An oil lamp had fallen to the floor. The ship was rocking. Seawater was everywhere. Trunks slid around on the wet floor. Carl Eric was afraid. He felt Papa next to him in bed. That was better. He could hear people being sick. The smell was terrible. The storm raged for 3 days. The immigrants were locked in. No one could come up on deck. Hundreds of voices praying and sang and cried. Mama and Joyce could not eat. They became weak and feverish. One night the hatch was unlocked. A man climbed out. He was carrying a small bundle. The ship bell rang. What is it? Said Carl Eric. Someone has died, whispered Papa. The next day the sea was calm. The crew unlocked the hatches. They washed down the immigrants' deck. The meals were served once more. Papa helped Mama and Josh to come up on deck. They breathed in the fresh sea air. They felt alive again. A man sat down beside Papa. It was much worse before the steamships, he said. It took months then. I know. I've made this trip many times. Can you speak English? Said Carl Eric. English, I'm talking very good, said the man. He showed Papa a little book called Handbook for an Immigrant. Everything you need to know about the United States of America and the English language. He said, I wrote it myself. Every day Papa and Carl Eric read the Handbook for Immigrants. They memorized the English praise. What o'clock is it? What o'clock is it? What country are you of? Now we arrived. America at last. On the 12th day, someone shouted, Land! The immigrants crowded up on deck to see New York's coast. This is America, cried Joyce. Yes, said Mama. At last they packed their things and dragged them up on deck. They tore open their mattresses and threw the straw overboard. A tugboat pulled up alongside. A health officer stepped aboard. He talked to the captain. All clear for landing, he said. The crew poked and pushed the immigrants into the lie. Hold hands, Mama shouted. We must not lose each other. Men in uniforms examined their baggage. A doctor looked into their eyes and down their throats. He thumped on their chests. The line moved slowly. The baby was crying. I'm hungry, Josh whined. I want wheat bread and with butter. Be quiet, hissed Carl Eric. His own legs ached from standing. He watched the man check Papa's paper. They asked him many questions, first in English, then in Swedish. He saw that Papa was nervous. Finally, it was open. They found a place to sit down. "Don't move from here," said Papa. When he came back, Papa was laughing. "Joyce," he said, "look, we have wheat bread with butter." But Joyce was fast asleep. "We have a letter too," said Papa. Axel, Sarah, and Anne Stina welcomed us to America. They will be at the railway station. Everything is arranged, and I have work for the winter. Oh, and Anders, Mama sighed. "Soon we'll have a home again." Carl Eric looked around at the huge room. Long of lines of immigrants were still waiting. He heard their many languages. He tasted the fresh wheat bread and the sweet butter of his new land. He leaned against Papa's shoulder and whispered, "Now we arrived." During the hungry years of 1868 and 69, more than 50,000 Swedish immigrants to America. Good farmland jobs, social mobility, religious and political freedom drew them here. Newspapers and pamphlets and letters from earlier immigrants spread the America fever. Like the thousands of European immigrants of time, the Swedish were willingly to leave everything for the dream of better life in the land of opportunity. Steamships traveled, make the trips shorter and safer than before. There were handbooks with strange-sounding English phrase dictionaries written by Swedish Yankees to guide their fellow countrymen on their long way to the new land.
If you'd like to know how to find all of our stories, type Living Books for World Changes into the YouTube search bar, press go, select Living Books for World Changes videos, and you can find all our stories there. We upload new stories every Thursday. We love sharing stories with you. Come back and don't forget to like and subscribe.